Hello and welcome, cats and kittens. My name is Alonda Carter and I am the recovering Hunbot. I create anti-MLM videos, so if you enjoy that sort of thing, you might want to consider, hitting that subscribe button, ringing the bell, and maybe even giving the video a thumbs up. Question number 1. Which MLM do you think is the most insidious? And I apologize, I didn't put your names on these things. I wasn't sure if you'd want your name on it or not, so I just left all of that off. So let me give you the answer to this. And it's hard because my thoughts about this keep changing as I dive more and more and go down different rabbit holes, And I'm thinking right now, well, okay, there's a couple. I mean, that's okay, right? I can't decide on just one. I mean, I really just can't choose, well, this is the worst. One, LuLaRoe, because all of these women who cannot get rid of all of these clothes, that's just ridiculous. My heart breaks for them. I've done a bunch of videos on LuLaRoe just because I know that there's so many people that have rooms filled with this stuff, or that have just taken it and dumped it off at Goodwill because no one wants it, and yet they're still convincing people to join them. And I know that they've lowered their entry price, but that's still $4.99. That's still expensive. At least it's not $5,000 anymore. I'll give them that, but I'm not giving them much because their prints are awful. Their fabric rips. I mean, it's just horrible. Beyond that, I guess another one I would consider pretty insidious is the Enagic. And I have a playlist. I did a bunch of stuff on Enagic because I really don't think a water filtration device that if I can talk, that costs $5,000 is worth it in the long run. I mean, there's other ways to filter your water. And what gets me even more is the people that are leading people to join an MLM under the disguise that they're going to help them create a business, so they get them to go to a webinar and then they sell them a course, which, I mean, as an instructional designer, I'm just going to say it again, I look at these things and they're so flawed in terms of how they're designed because they just are not using any principles of instructional design or instructional strategies or anything, and that just drives me nuts. But after you get their course, then you have to shell out $5,000, and if you don't have $5,000, well, that's okay. You can get financing. I mean, all of this stuff just makes me so uncomfortable. And beyond that, what makes me uncomfortable is that there's a lot of people in Southeast Asia, a lot of that area is developing, and there was that story about the measles outbreak in Samoa, and there was somebody who was spraying people with Kangen water. I mean, I'm sorry, spraying someone with water, that's not going to cure measles. And so how it's going to just prey on that. And beyond that, then I'm going to have to mention the sanitary napkin MLM, the video I did on that, which there is going to be a part 2, and I'm doing research on it. And let me tell you, I'm getting angrier and angrier and angrier the more I dig into this. I have some very, very heartfelt thoughts about it. I am disgusted. I really just want to smack someone. As a matter of fact, one of my subscribers that I did an interview with, I had to send them a message on Facebook because I was getting so hot under the collar. And I just had to kind of, release. Don't you ever sometimes you just got to release how you're feeling about something? Because this was just making me feel in a way that I don't even know how to describe, just beyond angry, so beyond, and just livid. I wanted to smack someone. It's something that's I can't believe that somebody is basically weaponizing, having a period, your menstrual cycle, and then sucking women into joining this. I mean, that is just so low. So if you ask me which one is the most insidious, like I said, it changes, I thought LuLaRoe, I thought Enagic, but now it's this whole sanitary napkin thing. I mean, my gosh, can it get any worse than that? I don't know. Next, what are they going to do? Kind of, try to monetize giving birth in some way? I don't know. So it's really hard to just land on one. And I would say that every single MLM is insidious. Every single MLM, they're all using thought reform. They're all using forms of persuasion, and not the good way, to really just, get you to believe in something that's not going to get you to where you want to go. But they'll put it in such a way that you think you can, and then when you don't, you just blame yourself. And that is horrible. I cannot stand how these companies victimize every person who joins it. And I blame the people who are at the top, at the C level, the CEOs. Those people are not stupid. They have to know what they're doing, and yet they do it anyway, and that just drives me nuts. Wow, that was kind of long. Question number 2. What does your husband think of your YouTube stuff? My husband is an amazing man, and we both support each other in terms of, whatever it is that the other person wants to do. We are very, very supportive of each other. I mean, him and his wine world, there are times when he comes home, and I think it was something that he said this weekend. Yes, it was this weekend. So Saturday, we finally had a day together, and we watched a Walking Dead episode. I'm trying to get him caught up before it all starts again on Sunday. But we watched a Walking Dead episode, and we also, again, talking is an issue. We also watched the movie Parasite, which, if you haven't seen it, it was the Academy Award winner. It was really good. He didn't think it'd be twisted enough for me, and it was twisted, but, in all the right ways. And I'm not going to give any, I'm saying no more. So anyway, we really do support each other. As a matter of fact, when he and I first met, oh gosh, this was in, 2013, 2014, something like that, and we were just really good friends. And I remember one of the very first conversations I had with him is I just looked at him and I'm like, why aren't you a sommelier? And at the time, he thought, oh, no way, that just takes too much effort, too much, I don't want to do all that. And now look at him, I mean, there's a story about how he fell into the wine program, but that's what he's doing. So on Saturday, when I thought, okay, we're going to have this full day together and it's just going to be a lot of fun, well, he had to go into work. I could have gotten really upset, but I understand the restaurant world since I was raised in it. My parents had a restaurant. My dad, in the 50s, created a restaurant here in Houston, and he's not with us anymore. And, he literally was someone who came from nothing. He was orphaned. He had nothing, and he created an amazing restaurant here in Houston. And so I understand, the restaurant game. I understand sometimes, there's going to be more covers than you expect. So, basically, we support each other. So he knows that I'm enjoying creating content. He knows that I have a passion to warn people against multi-level marketing. Before I did my first video, I had a conversation with him where I'm like, should I use my real name or should I not use my real name? Should I ever appear on camera? We talked about those things, and he was all into yeah, go ahead and, use your name. And yes, I do say Recovering Hunbot, and yes, there have been videos where I'm not on camera at all for various reasons which don't matter. But the bottom line is he wants me to be happy. He wants me to do something that I'm happy doing. And I love being able to create content that hopefully will help at least one person. Because if I can just help one person through one of my videos, then all of the effort to do all of this, to me, it's worth it, If I can help more than one, that's just amazing. And just to show you, because he does think of me, and we're not a couple where we get all these fancy gifts for each other. Well, one, just the money has not been there pretty much since the beginning of our marriage, but we do know each other, and he knows me very well. So he came home yesterday. I was editing the video that went out on Monday, which is today. And, I'm taking a bath. He always talks to me when I'm in the bathtub. We catch up. And he was doing show and tell. We were doing show and tell. That sounds kind of weird. Anyway, he was doing show and tell, showing me some things that he had gotten. And he had his hand behind his back, and he showed me this cup that he got. He loves the peanuts, by the way. And so it was a new peanuts cup. And I thought that was cool, but he still had his hand behind his back. And so this is what he pulled out, and hopefully you can see that, which is Day of the Dead theme. And I love that stuff. He knows me. And I mean, getting me this stinking cup, just thinking about me, is the world to me. That means more to me than getting me a box of chocolates and flowers on Valentine's Day. I don't really care about that stuff. So does he, what does he think? He's like, if she's happy, I'm happy kind of a thing. What happens to consultants when the MLM goes out of business? Oh, okay. It's not like I know what happens to everyone, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud on this. Some of this is going to depend where you are in the, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about without me saying anything? You're getting the picture here? It's going to depend on that. For the people who are at the bottom where they don't have a team or anything, and I think it depends on if it's been someone that's gone from one MLM to another MLM, because I do think there's people, I can't talk tonight. I do think there's people that it's like an addiction to them. They go from, it's a serial addiction, one MLM to another, and keep on thinking like, well, maybe this one's going to be it. Oh, this one. And so it depends on where they are in that whole indoctrination, thought reform, how much their personality has been changed, how long they've been doing it. I think that's a factor. The longer you've been doing it, whether you're at the top or you're not at the top, if you're just a serial MLM person, I think that if you're a serial MLM person, you're probably going to be looking for another opportunity, unfortunately. For those who are at the top, what happens with them is, and this is a long time ago, even though, I haven't been doing YouTube that long, but in terms of like where we are right now, I think it was the 22nd video that I created on anti-MLM, I believe. I could be wrong. But anyway, I made a video about the Sheffield group. The Sheffield group, and I have mentioned them a number of times in different videos. They teach people how to create an MLM. And one of the things that they teach people to do is how to recruit, how to go out there and find leaders, and those leaders know how to recruit. Because you want to get people in who can build up so that you can start bringing in revenue, So I think that sometimes these people will be approached by up-and-coming MLMs, new MLMs, and they'll probably feel around to see if people are disgruntled or not. There's ways. All these people know each other, and so people will leave who know how to make a team. And if you're on their team, sometimes you'll leave with them. So they just go from one to another, and they take people with them. Now, I wish I could say that when it collapses, they wake up and go, well, holy crap, that was a horrible idea. Why did I ever do that? But I really think that it's very strongly related to the psychological manipulation that's going on. And, the longevity in terms of how long you've been doing this. Where are you in the belief system? Myself, when I woke up and I was like, oh, I don't think so, I had not been shilling anything for a while. I'd been trying to do several other things, and then, found anti-MLM stuff and started digging into it. So if I would have found anti-MLM things like early on, I would have rejected it because my belief was so much into what I was being told. Does that make sense? I know you're probably wishing that you could hear that people wake up and they just never do it again, but I just don't think that's the case. I hope that answered your question. Let me know in the comments. Okay, number 4, how can we show loved ones that participating in MLMs, like the downside of that? I didn't read that right, but it's going to be on the screen, so you're going to figure it out. You know what I'm trying to answer. Okay, this kind of relates to the other question, because again, I think people, they want and I'm just, by the way, this is a hemp product that I did get, and it's a topical thing, but I'm going to just pretend like my Ananda hemp thing, that you want me to just hand you a little package and say, this is what you do. Unfortunately, I don't think there is, specific steps that's going to work for everyone. I also think it relates to How long have they been in MLM? Where are they in thought reform? How long have they been manipulated mentally? You know, if you start talking to them, are they going to start saying all the rhetoric? Are they open to, like, maybe this isn't working out because they're seeing that they're spending a lot of money and not getting anything in return? I think the very best thing you can do is, once somebody knows, like, okay, I don't stand a chance, you know, of like recruiting this person doesn't want to buy the products, which they may even, you know, stop talking to you, but you can still maintain contact with them. If this is a loved one, send them a text every now and then saying, thinking of you, hope all is well, you know, that sort of thing. Kind of, you know, have those lines of communication open. The thing that I would say don't do is do not attack them, claiming that whatever thing they joined is a pyramid scheme, because that will have the opposite effect. They'll dig their heels in more, and it will get them to go back to the other people that are also doing it. You'll be the hater, you'll be the negative person, you'll be the person that they should get out of their life. And so as much as you would like to be able to show them, even showing them the income disclosure statements, even showing them videos, even, you know, like showing them something. I've said this in other videos. You can be on fire and deny the flames. And that has to do with cognitive dissonance, because you cannot believe two conflicting things at one time. And at this time, when somebody's involved in an MLM, they full on believe the fairy tale that this is going to be something that's going to take them to the next level. So what I think you need to do is be open to allowing them to making a mistake, even though you don't want them to make it. Now, if you're married to them or something, I mean, one of the things you can do is like cut up the credit card or something. You know, I mean, I don't want to go to extremes, and I don't want to button your business in that way, because I think it can get really dicey, because I know MLM has broken up marriages. It's, you know, it's really, really challenging. I think one of the best things you can do is continue to educate yourself about the MLM your loved one is in, and kind of just, you know, have a folder of information. If it doesn't have an income disclosure statement, then collect income disclosure statements from other MLMs. Look at the numbers from the direct sellers. I am going to be doing a survey. I have, like, the first part of it is designed, and one of my subscribers, and he's also a patron, is helping me to get everything out. And so I'm going to have additional data, so you'll be able to take that data. I have mentioned in the past Dr. John Taylor. You can find his writings somewhere on the internet, because he analyzed over 500 MLMs companies in terms of their compensation and everything. You can listen to my videos. You can listen to Monica's videos. You can, you know, go to Pyramid Scheme Alert, Robert Fitzpatrick. I interviewed him. You can go and read those articles. You can listen to the Dream podcast. There's a lot of information out there for you. But if you try to dump all this information on someone who's an MLM, they're going to reject it. That's the number one thing that you need to know, is they are going to reject it, because they're not the person that you think they are. They've been altered by all the rhetoric, by all the, you know, the lies the MLM tells you. I hope that helped. Let me know in the comments. Number 5, what does the other side of MLM look like? Well, you know, it looks pretty good. Is my life just transformed since I decided not to do MLM? No, not really. I finally did find a job where I do work from home. It's not MLM. Hashtag not MLM. I always feel like I have to say that, and that really annoys me. I'm not making anywhere near the money that I made before I, you know, was laid off, when I went through breast cancer and all that. Nowhere even close, a fraction of it. But there's also a part of me, I know that I'm healing, and part of my healing is putting this content out there and, you know, helping someone like whoever's watching this. Hopefully it does help somebody in some way, you know. I've said that earlier. If it's just helping one person, great. Maybe I entertain someone else, but I just feel that I feel compelled, I feel called, I feel like this is something I need to speak about, because most people just kind of, oh, I did that, it didn't work out, and then they don't say anything. But I'm not content with just saying nothing. I feel like I have to talk about it because it's an enormous problem. And it's not just a problem in our country, in the U.S. This is worldwide. And I think that's what was so interesting about talking to Peter and having him, tell his story about his research in Mexico. And then as I started looking at stinking sanitary napkin MLM again, and I started digging into that, and I started seeing how, I'm getting so angry just thinking about it. But seeing what men were doing to women through a natural body function just is terrible, and it's people who are marginalized. And I started thinking about those people in Mexico and then in Latin America at large. When I was a graduate student, I did study stuff in Peru. I did skeletal trophy heads and also trophy head iconography. I studied this in Darrow Luminoso. I did research at the Field Museum. I did archaeological excavation school at the for high school kids, where I taught them how to excavate. I also taught them how to write reports and stuff. So I've had exposure to different things, and I kept thinking about something else. As an undergraduate, I read the book Black Like Me. I'm not sure if that book is still in circulation, if you can get it or not, but it was about someone who was white, and they took something, I don't remember what it was, to make their skin black, and so how they were treated differently as they became, African American looking. It's kind of like that. And I also read another book, which I can't think of what it is, but it's basically somebody did something, and I wish I remembered the name of it, and this book is not in circulation, but it's about somebody who was in like a Jewish, area and became Jewish, and like how they were treated as a Jew and then, as a Gentile sort of a thing. So it's, it's all of these different groups of people, and then I'm thinking about, and I feel like I'm going off in so many tangents, but I get really worked up about this because I think of the people in like Southeast Asia. I think of the people in developing countries because I've seen people like MLMs in Nigeria and things, and it's like there are people out there with not a lot of money, and they have dreams, and people come along just basically selling them a pipe dream and snake oil and saying you can make it. They're already struggling, and so what money they do have, they're pouring into something expecting to get something back from it, and they don't. They lose time, they lose money. Same thing for anybody here in the States who is on the struggle bus. I mean, it is such an enormous problem. So what it looks like on the other side is I can be a beacon. I can be a light. And I can shine that light on a problem that is absolutely horrible, that is damaging in so many ways. And I can just hope that my voice will make a difference, whether it's today, yesterday, tomorrow, next year, I don't know when, but for it to make a difference. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that answered your question. Number 6, how do you heal and rebuild? I think that's a great question. I think the first thing you have to do is be okay that you made the decision to join an MLM, and you're not a terrible person because you did so. It was a mistake. You didn't know any better. You were taken in. You were told a lie. That's the bottom line. You were told a lie. Somebody recruited you, and you thought it sounded like a good idea. You got in, you found out not such a good idea. The first thing is to just still love yourself, that you're okay. You're not a failure. Wrap your head around the fact that you're not a failure. And then start thinking about, I think it goes back to some small steps. For me, the thing is to talk about it. That's what I felt compelled to do. For other people, it may be something else which you might want to do, because maybe if you have some damaged relationships, let's just say your sister stopped talking to you for whatever reason, you reach out to them and talk to them. And I'll give you another example. This card right here, I actually have a letter too. There's someone who's an amazing photographer who took pictures of me several years ago. And when I got involved with Beachbody, his wife became a Beachbody coach. And they were coming over, and I wanted him to take some pictures of me for my Beachbody career. And, oh, goodness, my bra's falling down. Okay, got that. Anyway, and she was a coach, just wasn't doing anything about it, but she didn't want to talk anything about Beachbody. And there's something, I don't want to go into what happened, but there's something that happened where she and I stopped talking to each other. And a lot of it I do blame on the MLM. I think she was going through some stuff at the time because there was something she did that hurt me a lot in the way that she did it. So, yeah, you know, reach out to people if you think that you damaged your relationship. Yeah, the talking thing. If you think you've damaged your relationship in some way. I mean, I have people that I haven't said anything to them specifically, and the reason I haven't is I'm embarrassed and I'm afraid to. I don't want to hear from them, you know, like, see, I told you so. There's stuff I don't want to hear because I just, it's painful to think of what people might say back to me. And so I've been kind of a chicken about that. And so that's something that you're going to have to decide. Because there are some people I've said things to and it's been okay. And there's others where it makes me so uncomfortable thinking about talking about it that I don't even know where to begin. And maybe that's, oh gosh, I thought just bumped my thing. Maybe that's somewhere to start, is to know you're not alone if you feel embarrassed, to know you're not alone if you feel like a complete jerk, because I feel like a jerk too, and I am terribly ashamed that I was just trying to grab anybody and everybody and shove them into joining Beachbody with me so I could build my team and all this stuff. But the bottom line is that I know that I was taken advantage of, and that my entire person changed because of MLM. I'm not sure if this totally answered what your question was, but I hope it addressed part of it at least. Let me know in the comments. Question number 7. How do we talk to our kids about MLM? Okay, I love this question, and it's something I've been thinking about. And I haven't really completely formulated how this would work, but I'm going to tell you about something that used to go on at the school, one of the schools where I taught, K through 12. It was actually 3-year-olds through 8th grade that I taught. I taught science, and I also taught technology applications, computer, 3-year-olds through 5th grade. Science, I taught 2nd through 5th grade, and then I taught web design, and I had those kids doing HTML, bust out Notepad, baby doll, designing websites through 8th grade, so middle school. And there, once a year, and I can't remember, I think it was just elementary. I'm pretty sure it was just elementary. But we had this thing called International Festival. And through International Festival, each grade level, and it wasn't just each grade level because there was 2 different classes. There was 2 teachers that would like to teach 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, each grade level. 2 different teachers, so there was 2 classrooms of kids. So let's just say that in 3rd grade, one classroom is studying Australia, and then the other classroom studied England. So there were these different countries that each grade level was, choosing to study, and it was based on whatever the teacher wanted them to study. I know one year, 5th grade did Scotland, and I demonstrated Scottish dancing for them. I used to compete in Scottish dancing when I was growing up. And so I kind of thought about that, and what they would do is there would be a particular day where, or maybe it went on for a week, I can't remember, but they had passports, and so they'd go travel around to the different classrooms and put on different presentations and stuff, and they'd get their passport stamped. So I thought, what if there was something instructed for a particular grade level where they're told that they're going to be selling a product, and maybe it would start with, it was like one kid who was going to start selling it, and if he asked you, you had to say yes, and then each time a person said yes, they had to ask more people. There'd have to be some kind of rules set around this, and that's why I say I haven't really thought about it, but I think it could be made into an exercise. So starting as young as elementary, that you could then show them that, see, not everybody can get a bunch of people to join. There are some people that no one is going to join because they were asked at a later time or something like that. Is that making sense? But I really think that if I sat down and talked to another teacher about it, that we could come up with a way to create a really impactful lesson about this. I think one way is to do that. I think another way to do it, I just go back to like the elementary kids. I can't help it because I think this is something they need to know about, sooner rather than later. I think you can even do it with, word problems and stuff, and so that they would be figuring out something. Again, I don't have the problems written out, but I could see something where they're working on like in little pods together and figuring it out, of what they're going to do. Maybe what they're told is like, here, this is the population of the world is the population of the school, and so everybody has an opportunity to do this, and then figure out, the whole recruiting mechanism or something. Maybe the teacher herself, she's the person that's starting it, and then she gets 2 people underneath her, and then they have to get people underneath them. I don't know if this is making sense, and there's probably some other things. I definitely think once you get into high school, you can start having conversations with them, especially with different things as it's coming up. Something I did discover, I didn't talk about this at the beginning, but I'm doing those beauty boxes. Well, I found out there is a beauty box MLM, so guess what? I'll be doing a video on that. I think that literally anything out there, there's a product for anyone and they're going to be showing you MLM. And I think that you can just start talking to your kids about what would it be like if, they were doing this and just, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But I think, with the older kids, you can definitely show them income disclosure statements and start talking about it and start talking about, like, do you think it would be easy to do this? Why do you think it would be easy to do this? Why do you think people have difficulty doing it? Just start talking about it in those terms, possibly. I'm not sure if I really addressed everything that I'd like to, because I just keep going back to making a really powerful lesson about this for kids and having them do something, because it's going to be more impactful and more meaningful if they do something, learning by doing sort of a thing. Does that make sense? Let me know again in the comments. Number 8, how has your life changed positively or negatively since leaving MLM? Well, it's definite positive. I guess in some ways there's negative, because as soon as I stopped, it's kind of like all of the people who were like, I was hanging out with, it's like we all kind of just drifted apart. And I think the reason we drifted apart was because we weren't having success. And it's not like the person I was moved up under in Beachbody when my original upline left. It's not like that person was chummy chum with me. So they had no idea what was going on in my life. I did kind of lose a friend who joined Mel and Luca. I think she's still doing it. I wish she wasn't, because I really do love her, but I don't think she'd be open to me saying anything to her, because I think she's still drinking the Kool-Aid. And you just really can't approach someone when they are, and she has, quote, seen some success now. I don't know what it's really like for her, but I can only guess that I know she did better than she did with Beachbody, but I just know too much about this that it's not like she's going to be able to get where she thinks she can get with it, if that makes sense. So positively, I would say it's freed me because I can now speak about it. And I can now warn other people. I can take my experience and use it for the good, if that makes sense, And I guess negatively, again, it goes back to feeling like I had friends and then the friends weren't there. I'm not really sure if that makes sense. Okay, this is not exactly a question. Number 9, I want to know more about your pups. Okay, I have Chalupa and Tamale. Those are my pups right now. I had Chalupa first. Chalupa was kind of a gift to me from someone who I had dated. It was a very abusive relationship. He is no longer with us. He did die. I didn't kill him, you know. Let me make that clear. You know, it was natural causes. He had a heart problem. It was very, very serious. He had an LVAD, left ventricular assist device, installed in him, so he was not doing well, and it was like through that, you know, his number was up, so to speak. But he got me Chalupa. It was a surprise. It was like, because my dog Hurricane, when I had moved to California to take care of him, my dog Hurricane crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and I was really devastated about Hurricane. So, you know, he got me another rescue baby. And then Tamale came along, and this was, wow, when was this? 7 or 8 years ago is when I got Tamale. But I can remember at the time, I was very, very big into, you know, rescue animals. I'm still big into, I believe that you should, you know, adopt, not shop. Full on, that is what I think you need to do, because there's just so many babies being mistreated, so many babies that need homes. And I mean, if I start thinking about it, I'll get really upset, so I just can't think about that right now. But there was a thread on one of the groups I was in, and what happened was this after a flood? This might have been after a flood. I can't recall. But there were 3 dogs that were abandoned in an apartment building. And 2 of them were dachshunds, doxies, little wiener dogs, and 1 was a chihuahua. And Hurricane was a doxie. Chalupa is a chiweenie, half dachshund, half chihuahua. So, you know, I have a thing about, you know, little doxies. I just really love them. I love all fur babies, okay? Let me just put it out there. I love all fur babies. And so anyway, in this thread, so there was a particular one of these doxies that I was like, oh yeah, I want to look at this one. Well, that dog was taken, and so they asked me if I would take the black pup, which was a chihuahua, and I said, yes, absolutely. I've got to make sure that, you know, Hurricane will get along with this dog. And I'm really glad I did, because Tamale is just a sweet little girl. I mean, she's got a bit of an attitude. But I can remember going to, I can't remember the rescue that I went to. I think it was with the city or the county, or I don't remember what it was called. But I went there, and there she was. So her and these 2 other dogs, they were abandoned in an apartment, no food, no water, and it might have been after a flood, or maybe I'm getting another story mixed up. I don't remember. And I just can't imagine just walking out, leaving, and just leaving your animals behind and being like, good luck with that, just abandoning them. No food, no water. How does somebody do that? And she guarded her food for the longest time. And for the longest time, she would take no treat from me. Now, if I eat an apple, and they have to be Macintosh apples, those are the apples I like, she is all over me. I've always shared apples with my dogs. And so she'll take them. She likes tortillas too. And so now when I'm in the kitchen, you know, it's taken her a long time to come out of her little shell, but she wants to have whatever that is. And, you know, she cuddles up next to me, and so does Chalupa. I mean, Chalupa is my Velcro boy. He wants to be with me 24/7, 365, and wants me to just, you know, he wants to be on top of me. If I'm on the couch, if I lay down, he lays on me, and he's a chunky monkey, and he does get heavy. And they're just, you know, my little fur babies. They're the light of my life, so to speak. I just love them to pieces. I've always made up cheers and, you know, songs for my animals, and they both have theirs that I do. And, you know, I'm just a big goofball when it comes to my pets. I love them dearly. It's like they are my little babies. Every single animal I've ever had, it's like they've taken it. I'm going to start crying. They've all taken a piece of my heart. Seriously, tears, especially when I start thinking about Hallie Puppy. Oh, goodness. But, yeah, so that's a bit more on my dogs, and I'm saying no more because I don't want to start crying. What was your defining moment to when you just... Okay, I probably wrote this wrong. I don't think it the person asked this much better than what I wrote it, but basically my defining moment of when I decided to go anti-MLM. I'm having issues with talking, so you guys are just going to have to deal with it. I'm having issues with talking. What opened my eyes? Okay, well, I've mentioned this in videos before, and I am messing with my bra. I'm sorry, it still feels like it's falling down. Oh, yes, by the way, I am wearing a t-shirt from when I was a Beachbody coach. Thought that was appropriate today. What opened my eyes? Okay, we used to live in this area of Houston. We live inside the Loop. The Loop is Loop 610. Within Houston, you have a Loop 610, and then you have the Beltway, and beyond that is the Grand Parkway. And the Grand Parkway doesn't go all the way around the metropolitan area, but the Beltway does and the Loop does. I live inside the Loop. And inside of the Loop, not all areas are the same. There's areas inside the Loop that are safe, and there's other areas that are a little bit more sketch. So anyway, when we went from Midtown, and we lived on Main Street, the light rail literally was outside of my window, and we moved into this area called Montrose. And the last place that we lived, talking issues again, the last place we lived, it was really interesting because the house next door to us was my philosophy professor when I was in undergrad, and I loved him. I have some great stories about that. I brought a dog to class with him. Yeah, I did that, and there's a story behind that. If you ever want to know it, let me know. But anyway, we moved into Montrose, and we moved into this townhouse. And, you know, I always thought that my husband wanted to be in an apartment community, and I wanted to be in this area. I love this area. This is my most favorite area of town. And he had never lived in this area, and, you know, and then he did, and he, like, really liked it. But the person who owned that property, we were there a year, and they decided to sell it. And that really chapped me because, you know, we would not have moved in there just for a year. That was not our plan, to move in somewhere for just a year. And so we had to find a place. And so now we moved into where we are now, and we literally moved like a couple of blocks away, and that's it. So it was when we moved to where we are now, we cut the cable cord. And when we cut the cable cord, and I've already been watching YouTube on my TV, but I was watching more and more and more. And anti-MLM videos started coming in through my recommended. And that's what I kind of discovered about the whole Hunbot thing. And then I went to Reddit just because they were talking about r/anti-MLM. And I'm like, holy crap, oh my gosh, this is what people thought about me. And I was horrified. I had not been promoting Beachbody for a long time, but I was keeping it in my hip pocket, thinking like, if I built something, I could offer this to people. I still was, you know, believing it could be something, even though it never had been anything. But I still had some sort of a belief. So it was really just coming across some anti-MLM stuff on my own after I had stopped being Karen on Facebook trying to get everybody to join, you know, Beachbody. So I hope that answered your question. Let me know in the comments. Number 11, what is the craziest thing an upline lied about or told you to lie about? Well, okay, here's the thing. The person that signed me up, she provided basically no support, and she was my neighbor, lived on the same floor as me when I lived in Midtown. And so she didn't say anything, you know, she really gave me no clue. When she left and I moved up underneath someone else who has a massive, massive team, I didn't talk to her except for I talked to her on the phone once. And when I went to Summit in New Orleans, I saw her in person only because I had hit rank in Success Club, and I went to some little gathering of hers, and that's basically it. You know, no one ever told me to lie about anything. I did not experience that. It was more like when I joined Social Team Builders, and when I was doing things, you know, running around all over the internet looking for answers, where people would kind of plant ideas about the whole fake it till you make it, because that really wasn't part of the culture I personally experienced with Beachbody. It was more of the cultural, talking issues. It was more of the culture at large, you know, at a macro level, you know, micro Beachbody, macro MLM. So it was more at that larger level about, I felt that I was told things that was basically saying to lie about stuff. It's nothing in particular. It was really more about projecting a lifestyle than anything else. I hope that answered your question. I could probably think of some things like, lies that I heard. I'm not really sure. I mean, I know lies told to me. That I know. Lies I was told to perpetuate, not so much. Number 12, how has MLM impacted your marriage? I'd say pretty much there hasn't been really an impact. I would say if anything, it has been financial, because when I first joined Beachbody, I ran across an ad for Ubly, and this dude, Dustin, and I got on the phone. I want to say that's who I talked to. He and his wife had this company, and he was slick. He was, slick with what he was selling. He was selling the dream that he had the customer relationship management system that was going to skyrocket me, that was going to get me to 6 figures. I remember hearing that. And so I got his system, and, my husband even got on the phone. And my husband was not so much into it, but he didn't say anything to me because my husband saw that I was, really into it. So he was like, well, if that's what you want to do. But it was $4,000 that I put on a credit card to get this system that was pure crap. I've never done a video on it, but if you want me to do a video on my experience with Ubly of chasing the MLM dream, I can do that. Let me know in the comments. So really, it's not anything like, we didn't start fighting or anything like that. But I would say that in addition to that $4,000, I mean, at a time when I didn't have a job, but I was mad at corporate America of how I was treated after going through breast cancer and while I went through cancer and then being laid off the day that I came back from dealing with cancer. I did not like how I was treated at all. And I still am not real keen on how, corporate treats you. But at the same time, you do get paid a wage, you do get benefits. You're given things, you know what you're going to get. There's stuff that I'm like, I can't believe I have to do this. This is just silly, but you got to do it anyway. But I think that's just kind of part of life, is that you've just got to figure out a way to deal with things that you think are a bit, silly that you have to do. And you don't get why you have to do it, but it's just one of those things. You got to do it, It's just kind of like when you were growing up. There was stuff that you had to do in school or assignments that you're like, you weren't all over that. It's the same kind of thing throughout life. There's just stuff that you have to do. So if anything, there was the financial impact, because when I was not bringing in money, I was still spending money on Shakeology because I wanted to be active. I was spending money on ads because I wanted to build a team. And I was spending money on, professional development. I was spending money on these courses. I was spending money chasing something that would never be. So the biggest impact would be a hit financially. 13. How did you get the courage to do the first video? Well, this really depends on when you're talking about, because I did my first video back when Facebook Live, came into being. And I just threw caution to the wind and didn't worry about it. But I look back at that because who I, quote, learned how to do video from, it was pretty horrifying, because I don't feel that I was natural. She taught you to be waving at the camera. You've seen some of these people, I'm sure, doing Facebook Lives where there's overly animated. It wasn't really a natural thing. And then, I guess there was a bit, more natural. When it came to doing anti-MLM, I think it's just because I got that fire in my belly that, number one, I had to start researching it to figure this out. And it's not like, I have an answer. I just am trying to understand how it all operates and what's going on, the psychological manipulation, culturally, the impact that it has on the economic impact. The different things that it touches. I'm fascinated and horrified by it. And I think it's the social scientist in me that desires to, really dissect it. And, that's why I do these different interviews, is that I want to dig into it at a deeper level. Because as much fun as it is just to make fun of, what Huns are doing and laugh at all of it, beyond that, there's real people connected to each and every post. And even those top Huns that people just want to hate on because they think that they're doing the mom shaming, the this and the that and the other thing, and that they're the problem. And they are problematic. I'm not going to say they're not, but they have been indoctrinated. They have been going through undue influence. They have been manipulated. They have been lied to. And because of cognitive dissonance, they can't see that what they're doing is damaging to others, you know. So I think about all of that. I think it's very important for us to talk about it. I guess, you know, when you look back historically, when people have seen things that were wrong and they spoke up about it, that's kind of how I feel. Do I think I'm some kind of hero or something? God, no. I just think I'm a woman that can't keep her mouth shut about this, that has to speak out about it, and that, again, it goes back to being a light. It goes back to being a light. So my courage came from to do anti-MLM was like, I could just hide in the corner, lick my wounds, and go about my life, or I could seek to make a difference. And so I chose that I wanted to make a difference with this because I felt like this is something I can have an impact on because I know it, I've been through it, I can look at it in a different way. Then there's plenty to do on it because there's so many of these worldwide, and there's so many different facets that you can, you know, look at it through a different lens and everything. I guess that's really why I like doing the interviews too, is just having a different lens and having people, you know, share their experiences and, you know, research they've done or just, you know, anything about it, because I think it to me, it's part of the conversation. It needs to be part of the conversation, just like we've had other things being part of the conversation in terms of equal rights or something. To me, this is something that is highly destructive for people in general, most definitely destructive to women in particular, and beyond that, it goes to people who are marginalized, that are being taken advantage of, which is just so insidious and so awful. And I think it's important for that conversation, so at a larger level, people can start to understand that this business structure is really not a good idea, because most everybody is going to lose, and they're going to lose a lot more than just the money. They're going to lose part of themselves, because mentally it takes a toll on you. I really believe there's a lot of people walking around who are damaged from this, and they're angry and they don't know how to deal with it. And some of that anger is coming out on picking on the Huns and doing Hun shaming, which, you know, I'm not going to shame anyone. Scoot up. I see that go on, and it bothers me, because I think it's so much deeper than what one or more than one person is doing. It goes back to these businesses, what these people are doing who create these businesses, and that are choosing to have all these people go out and, you know, use their social equity and have that dry up chasing a dream. Let me know if that answered your question. Wow, that was a lot. I felt like I went down a lot of different rabbit holes. I hope that did answer questions that you had. And, you know, I may do another one of these. I'm pretty sure I'll do another one in the future. So, you know, get to thinking about, what would you like to ask me? Let me know. You know, it's whatever I can share with you that gives you insight about, you know, how you can get away from being in multi-level marketing, what you can do about educating yourself. A lot of it is taking the time, I think, to educate yourself and looking at this, you know, watching these different videos, reading things yourself. I never want you to take what I say or anyone else says, just take that and run with it. Do your own research. Always do your own research. And if somebody is telling you, oh, don't look at the things on the internet, that should be a huge red flag. You know, people like Ray Higdon say stuff like that. Don't look on the internet. You need to look on the internet. People are talking about stuff. You need to talk to other people. Do that. And if you have a story to tell, no, you're not alone. It's not just you. You're not a failure. This entire thing, this phenomenon, it has taken advantage of you. You know, really, that's what's going on. And I will be continuing that research on that sanitary napkin MLM. And it's really getting me hot under the collar, so look for that. And until then, I'm going to get down on the go-go. And remember, change starts now.